Hotep World. This your brother Matthew Daniels, aka Ampu, aka the Chosen Few, aka the Real Bookworm. I'm not a bookworm, I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. And as always, world, may your name live on forever, and may your memory never die. Hotep, cheers to that. Today we're going to be talking about a book or a trilogy that I haven't actually finished yet. So this is actually exciting. You guys are going to be learning about this book as I read it. And this is Isaac Asimov, the Foundation Trilogy. Now this book actually contains 3 books. The first one is called Foundation. The second one is called Foundation and Empire. And the third one is called Second Foundation. Now, a little bit about the author, Isaac Asimov. Why did I buy this book? The first time I heard the name Isaac Asimov, I was scrolling through YouTube and I found something that was titled Isaac Asimov Debates, right? Now, those debates aren't Isaac Asimov debating himself. What they are a collection of debates / discussions that are hosted by Neil deGrasse Tyson, the famous astrophysicist, once a year. And they get a panel of scientists and scholars in their respective fields, and they talk about various topics. They talk about the nature of the universe. They talk about artificial intelligence. They talk about possible ways that the world will end. They talk about the possibility of extraterrestrial life out in the universe. They have been holding these debates / discussions for about 18 to 20 years now, something like that. So if you're interested in science and scientific topics, just go on YouTube and look up Isaac Asimov debates. And if you find the ones that are hosted or moderated by Neil deGrasse Tyson, you're going to come back to this video and you're going to thank me. Those things are powerful. And so I first heard the name Isaac Asimov in relation to those debates, right? And Neil deGrasse Tyson, he is one of my favorite astrophysicists. As if I really know a lot, right? I don't really know a lot of astrophysicists. He's basically the main one that I know. He's one of my favorites. And he spoke so highly of Isaac Asimov. He's actually passed away now. They named that in his memory. But he mentioned how this guy was a prolific writer. And so the other day I was walking through Barnes and Nobles and I saw this book and I saw the name and I was like, Isaac Asimov, I have to buy this book, right? I have to buy this book. So what we're going to do today, I've only made it to about page 78. I'm on page 78 in the first book known as Foundation. So I'm just going to tell you guys what I have read about so far, so you guys can know what's going on in the book. And as I read more, I'll come back and I'll make more videos and I'll break this thing down a little more for you. So what it appears to be happening, and some of this information may be incorrect. Like I said, I haven't read the entire series, so I don't know everything. But from what I gather so far, he is describing this. It's a science fiction novel. And let me say this. Whenever I read a science fiction novel, in order to get the most out of the story, in my mind, I imagine that it's telling real events. Okay, and that way I'm more easily drawn into the story. So what he's talking about is a time period when humans have basically colonized the galaxy, right? They have humans are inhabiting countless planets in the galaxy, right? They have made planets that were inhospitable to human life, now hospitable to human life. And all of these planets with humans on it are part of some galactic empire, right? And the emperor of this galactic empire lives on a planet called Trenton, if I'm if my memory serves me correctly. And so how the story starts off, it starts off talking about this guy named Gall, right? So Gall is this young mathematician slash scientist, and he wants to go to Trenton to work with the most famous psychohistorian slash mathematician slash scientist, a man named what's his name? Dr. Selden, right? And so he basically gets on this ship and he travels from his home planet all the way to the main planet of the empire, the galactic empire named Trenton. So when he gets to Trenton, he doesn't notice it, but he is being followed the entire time he is there. And it's because he is going to work on this project for this guy Selden. Now, this guy Selden is a controversial figure. Hence, the people following this guy coming to work for him. So when he gets back to his hotel room, I guess, for lack of a better word, he finds Selden in his room. And so Selden begins to talk to him about some of the things that he is uncovering with his project that he's working on. And basically, Selden has used a science known as psychohistory, implementing mathematical formulas and an understanding of human nature and societies and how things unfold. And he's figured out a way to predict the future. And so he tells Gall that his predictions says that the empire, the galactic empire as a whole, will collapse within 3 centuries, within 300 years. Okay, and the project that he is working on is something geared towards dealing with that situation, right? So Selden leaves the hotel room, Gall goes to sleep, and he is supposed to go to work for Selden the next morning. But when he wakes up the next morning, he is immediately arrested, right, by what could be called the police force on Trenton. It's not exactly the police force, but it is. In our terminology, it would be the police force. So they arrest him, they arrest Selden, and they bring them before the people in charge, the people in charge of Trenton, and ultimately the people in charge of the empire itself. And they go through a major line of questioning, trying to ask Selden what is the nature of his project. So after talking back and forth, Dr. Selden, the psychohistorian, he basically tells them, look, this is what we've been working on and this is what I have uncovered. The galactic empire is going to fall within 3 centuries. Now, they don't believe him because at first they don't believe him, or they pretend that they don't believe him, because the galactic empire has stood strong for around 12,000 years up until this point. Okay? And so they ask him, is there any way that they can change the future? Can they save the galactic empire from falling in 3 centuries? Selden basically tells them no. He says that because of things that have already happened, things are already in place. The dominoes are already falling, and there is no way to save the empire. So they ask him, well, Dr. Selden, does your prediction say what will happen after the fall of the galactic empire? And he tells them yes. Selden says that based on his calculations and based on his predictions, that once the galactic empire falls in 3 centuries, that humanity as a whole throughout the galaxy will revert back to a dark ages. They will all be reverted back to a barbaric state, and that state will last for around 30,000 years before humanity basically gets back to the level of technology, science, and understanding and living conditions that they now enjoy in the reign of the galactic empire. And so they asked Dr. Selden, is there any way that if they start working now, is there anything that they can do to stop humanity from falling for this 30,000 year period? Right? And so Dr. Selden tells them that no, they cannot save mankind from falling to a barbaric state after the empire falls. But if they act now and if they do exactly what he is planning on them to do, then they can cut the 30,000 year dark ages of humanity. They can cut it down to 1,000 years. And after 1,000 years of the fall of humanity in the galaxy, mankind can elevate back to the status of scientific knowledge and understanding and technological advances that they are in now. So they asked Dr. Seldom, well, what can we do, right? And so Dr. Seldom basically tells them that they must create something that's called the Encyclopedia Galactica, right? He says what they need to do and what he has already been working on, what his program and his project is geared towards, is what they must do is collect all of the history and all of the scientific knowledge and information and know-how from around the galaxy, from the beginning of humanity until now. They must meticulously catalog all of this information into a massive, multi-volumed work known as the Encyclopedia Galactica. And he says that copies of this Encyclopedia Galactica must be passed out and distributed amongst all the planets in the galaxy. And so he says by doing this, when the empire falls and when mankind reverts back to a barbaric state, then at least mankind will have this Encyclopedia Galactica, which contains all of this history and all of this scientific information, and they will be able to rebuild society based on what's in this book, as opposed to taking 30,000 years to relearn all of this information. They will have it stored in this book. So ultimately, the empire agrees to let him work on this Encyclopedia Galactica, but they tell him that it's too controversial a topic, because if he's talking about the empire falling, if too many people get wind of this, it's going to destabilize civilization. So they send him to the edges. They send him and his research team, about 100,000 people, right? They send them to a planet, an uninhabited planet on the edge of the galaxy known as Terra Minus, right? And they take 50 years. Selden passes away, but he leaves his predictions and he leaves his plan for this Encyclopedia Galactica, and his followers take up the plan. But within 50 years, they actually set up the Encyclopedia Foundation on this planet Terminus, and they are diligently working to create this Encyclopedia Galactica, right? And so now, after 50 years, where I'm at in the book right now, several planets on the outskirts of the galaxy have already begun defecting from the Galactic Empire, and the things that Selden predicted that were going to happen are already beginning to happen, which will culminate in the fall of the Galactic Empire. One of the things that happened was planets that were in the nearby area of Terra Minus, mainly Anacreon, a planet called Anacreon. These planets have separated from the empire, and they have set kings up over their own planet. And so now Anacreon is making threats to Terra Minus, saying that you have all of this land on this planet that you're not using because there's only about 1 million people there. You have this really big planet. We want to basically divvy up some of the land on your planet to our nobles to increase their estates. And if you don't give us the land, we're just going to take the land. And at first, the scientists who were working on the Encyclopedia Galactica, they were like, hey, you can't come over here and take anything because we are protected by the Empire. And so now they have just realized that the Empire, the Galactic Empire, and the Emperor have already made treaties with Anacreon and some surrounding planets, and they are realizing that they don't have as much protection as they thought. So they are debating what they're going to do about the king of Anacreon, right? And an interesting thing that they said is in a couple of months, they are going to be celebrating their 50th year anniversary of founding Terra Minus, right? And in that 50th year, the psychohistorian Selden, who set this project in motion, his vault is supposed to be open. He told them in 50 years, open my vault, and there is supposed to be some type of information left by Selden inside of this vault. And so you have some of the members of the board of trustees for the Encyclopedia Foundation who are assuming that maybe Selden predicted that this would happen, right? That these other planets, possibly Anacreon, would eventually try to come take our land. And they're wondering if when they opened this vault that Dr. Selden would have given them the answer to how to handle this situation, because his predictions and his prophecies were really, really spot on. And so they're saying is a big coincidence that as soon as this unrest is happening around this 50-year mark, Selden had already told them that in 50 years, I want you to open my vault and it's going to be some information in there for you. So I can't wait to see what happens when they open the vault to Dr. Selden. And I can't wait to see how they deal with this king of Anacreon and if they actually complete this Encyclopedia Galactica, right? And me being a writer myself, me loving history and things like that, when they start talking about creating this Encyclopedia Galactica, I was like, you know what? I would love to be on that board of trustees who was in charge with constructing this thing. I would love to be consolidating all of known history and all of known scientific achievements into one book. I would have loved to work on that project. Now, something interesting about that, the concept of civilization falling and reverting back to a barbaric state because they lost the knowledge, the scientific knowledge, and they lost the history, and so they have to relearn everything. Interesting thing about that, when you look into the works of Plato primarily, right? Plato says that the Greeks learned from the Egyptians that human civilization has done this exact same thing that Isaac Asimov is proposing in his book several times. Plato says that the Egyptians said that several times in the course of human history, humanity has evolved intellectually and scientifically and technologically to a very high point. There was some type of major world cataclysm that destroyed said civilization, killed a lot of people, and dropped the population so low and did so much damage that previous history and previous scientific knowledge was lost. And so mankind was reverted back to a barbaric state. And so it took several thousand years for humanity to get back to the point that they were in before the cataclysm. And once humanity had rose into a high state again, another cataclysm affected the earth, and mankind was forced into another dark ages. They talked about this as if it was a cycle that has happened multiple times in the history of planet Earth. Mankind has risen. There was a catastrophe. Mankind fell into a dark ages where mankind forgot its history and mankind forgot the technology and the technological knowledge and the scientific knowledge that it once had. It relearned everything. Humanity rose to a great height again. It was another cataclysm. Mankind fell. And you had this rising and falling of mankind going back tens, even hundreds of thousands of years, possibly, right? So when I read that in Isaac Asimov's book, Foundation, I was like, that's actually what some of the ancient historians have said has been going on with mankind for a long time. And if that was a reality, if ancient man had compiled all of their information into a single source and passed it around so that it would survive the catastrophe, mankind would not have to painstakingly relearn everything on their own. They would have a reference point that could point them in the proper direction. So I look forward to reading that book more, and I look forward to giving you guys an update on Isaac Asimov, the Foundation Trilogy. This is Foundation, Foundation and Empire, and Second Foundation. This book is awesome, and I'm beginning to see a small piece of why Neil deGrasse Tyson spoke highly of this man Isaac Asimov. As always, if you guys could, if you like these videos, if you want to support me, if you like this information that I'll be putting out, what you can do to support me is you can go to Amazon.com and you can order one of the books that I've written myself. Go to Amazon.com, type in Suicide Note by Matthew Daniels, right? And you can either order the paperback version of my book or the ebook version of my book. I also have a book called Thicker Than Water. You can go to Amazon.com, type in Thicker Than Water by Matthew Daniels, and you can order the paperback or the ebook version of that. I'm also working on my third novel. It's going to be called Big Game Hunting. This book is not a fictional story. This book is going to be all facts. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but it is documenting police corruption in Texas City, and I give you documentation spanning several decades to prove everything that I'm saying. So this book is actually going to be dynamic. Anybody that knows me, you know that I'm very involved in things like that. So this book, Big Game Hunting, is going to be a game changer. It is going to be the most information packed and important work on the topic of police corruption in Texas City that has ever been written. Honestly, I believe it will be the only historically accurate documentation of its kind right here in Texas City. We're going to be breaking entirely new ground with this book. It probably will no doubt put a target on my back, but it's just the historical record. I'm just putting the historical record out there. I'm not trying to attack anybody. I'm not trying to cause anybody to lose their job. I just compiled the information as a researcher and as a first-hand account because I was involved in a major struggle with the Texas City Police Department. Me, my brother Joshua Daniels, and several others who I accredit in the book. And all I do is I document, proven documentation of exactly what I'm going to be saying. It's full of newspaper clippings, newspaper articles, dates, times, names, places, and it's all facts, nothing fictional about it. Big Game Hunting. Be on the lookout for that. Big Game Hunting. This book would no doubt change the game down here. So, Isaac Asimov, the Foundation. Go look for those Isaac Asimov's scientific debates on YouTube. If you're into science, if you're a nerd, if you're a geek, if you're a bookworm like myself, you're gonna, if you haven't already heard of them, you're gonna thank me for pointing you towards those Isaac Asimov debates. This your brother Matthew Daniels, aka Ampu, aka the Chosen Few, aka the Real Bookworm. I'm not a bookworm. I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. And as always, world, may your name live on forever, and may your memory never die. Hotel, cheers to that. Peace, I'm out.